know what we've been discovering ever since the election was that everybody you would have expected to know about the decline of Joe Biden during his presidency knew about the decline of Joe Biden during his presidency. Even though they denied it, they lied about it the whole time. They covered it up. They kept telling us how brilliant he was and how active he was and how he's the best communicator in the White House. And he's so sharp. Nobody can even 20-year-old interns can't keep up with this man. And then everybody afterwards admitted the lie, including Ron Klain, his chief of staff, who said that he couldn't even comprehend what was being said at that debate. Wow. Where were you then?
Is that a problem? Do you want your president to be able to comprehend a lot of stuff?
I'm a little picky that way, probably. I'm probably more picky than the average person. I'd say yes. I do want my president to understand virtually everything said at a debate.
Wow.
Virtually all of it. Yeah.
That's a crazy standard.
It's a high bar.
You know?
I know.
It is.
I realize it. It really is a high bar.
You probably want people to pay their student loans back, too.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, now I understand you. You're just one of those
now
right-wing.
You know I'm a
mean.
kooky right-wing white supremacist.
Mean.
And which may be the worst of all. I'm just mean. Well, Jen Psaki talked about Biden's mental decline, and here's what she had to say about that.
I left in May of 2022, just for the facts here. And I have seen Biden once since then, when I took my daughter to the holiday party this last December after he had lost. And so I hadn't seen him in person during that period of time. I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly. Were things that people saw during that period of time that were similar to that or would have been in a category of that? I don't know, possibly, right? And all these books are going to tell us.
Like, do you think that were they actively covering it up? Were they sort of in denial, or was that just a bad debate? Like, what is your read on that?
Well, this is what I mean about cover up is a very loaded term, I think.
Right.
Well, it means you knew that it was really bad and you're pretending otherwise versus you're deluding yourself, which I think is what people do a lot.
Well, I understand, but I still think it's like cover up is often like a crime, right? We're talking, people use that term.
They say it's worse than the crime.
People use that term as they relate to Watergate or the covering up of not sharing public information about a war.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing anybody of a crime.
I understand, but other people have used that term, and I think it's a bit of a dangerous term.
It's not a dangerous term. It's an accurate term.
Yes, it's the truth. People covered up for him, and they're admitting that now. They're saying, "Yeah, it was bad. We knew in the circle that he was bad. He just wasn't the same. He declined." Well, okay, now it's bordering on treason because you were saying the whole time that he was fine, that everything was great, that he's sharp as a tack. I mean, that borders on treason when you're talking about the chief executive of this country. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think, Psaki herself has some plausible deniability here in that when everybody acknowledges all these problems happened with Biden, she was gone for multiple years. Now, I, of course, believe these happened long before that while she was there. I don't believe
the
her for
evidence
a second.
of it.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a close call. We all saw before he was even elected that he had lost a step or 12. In that process. So I don't buy her answer here. However, she probably has some plausible deniability as opposed to people who were actually there with him every day during that period, right? Like those people
Ron
were
Klains
there.
of the world.
Yeah, I do think that I'm totally fine with at least discussion of what crime was committed there. I'll say this, if there was no crime committed, we need to change the law.
Yeah. It's not the truth.
Because this cannot be an ongoing thing.
No.
We saw it back with the Woodrow Wilson days, where he wasn't even president. His wife was basically running the country.
He was literally in a coma.
In a coma for part of the period.
Yeah.
The same thing basically happened here.
It was a waking coma.
It was a waking coma, but basically Dr. Jill Biden was president for a time.
Yeah.
It seems... Yeah. At the very least, we need a full investigation to know what the hell happened there. I want to know everybody who took steps to, using this term very accurately, cover up what was going on. But by the way, they've now admitted they were doing.
Yes.
They
over and over
have admitted that they were doing things to make sure we didn't know what was going on. They would take steps to hide from the American people what lapses he was having.
I mean, that's despicable. And again, it borders on treason.
It should be illegal.
Yeah, absolutely. It should. The American people had a right to know that their commander-in-chief was compromised mentally like that. And we saw it the whole time. And it wasn't just since 2022, as she was alluding to, because we saw it all during the campaign in 2020. 2019 and 2020, he was not the same guy he was back in 2008 when he ran. He just wasn't. He was half gone, at least, the entire time.
Am I wrong, too, Pat, to think that this should be a bigger issue?
No.
I care
it should be.
a lot more about what happened during that Biden, at the end of that Biden presidency, or throughout the Biden presidency, when it comes to covering this stuff up, than I do what happens to some potential gang member who was taken to El Salvador prison. Now, again, we should get everything right. Everything in the country should go the perfect way, obviously. Yes. But, and it's not going to happen, first of all. But secondly, like when it comes to focus, like let me say another one here, Pat. Care a lot more about what actually happened behind the scenes during that Biden period than I do about the JFK situation in 2025. A lot of things that we've spent a lot of time on, like there should be full-out investigations going on as to whether we as a nation just suffered through a period where a president was unable to do his job and people with names that we know actively took steps to hide it from us. That's way more important than about half the stuff we're talking about right now.
Very egregious. Yeah, it's egregious. And now, you brought up the Maryland man.
The father? The Maryland father?
The saint?
Yes.
Yes, the Maryland man. It's interesting because they did all of this without adjudication, without due process. And the administration is making some cases now that there was a lot of due process because he had multiple court appearances. He had a deportation order. He was deemed a gang member by the courts, not once but twice. I mean, so there were things. The only thing that was really violated there maybe was the fact that he wasn't supposed to be deported right then back to El Salvador.
Back to that place.
That actual place.
He should have been deported, but in theory, because of a court ruling that you can agree with or not agree with, he shouldn't have gone back to El Salvador, but he should have gone somewhere else.
Yes. And deporting people who are here illegally is not a violation of the Constitution, and that's what they're trying to make out of it now.
Are you sure, Pat?
I'm very,
It
very
seems
positive.
like it would be a violation of the Constitution to deport people who aren't supposed to be here. I can't even understand the arguments from the media anymore.
I know.
How could the Constitution possibly, if Constitution is essentially a framework for the nation to run, another framework for the nation to run are its laws.
Yes.
The laws quite clearly would indicate when you say someone is here illegally that removing them would be a rational. Sometimes you need to have just come to like rational thought should enter the conversation. They've entered the chat. Rational thought has entered the chat. Hey, when you come here illegally, you should leave.
It's quite a concept. I mean, that's out there. That's out there a ways. Over the weekend, I saw a headline yesterday, actually, about President Trump says he doesn't know if he has to follow the Constitution. I'm like, what? Did he say that? He actually said it in regard to whether or not we need to do due process on all the illegals that we deport from here on out. Like you're going to go to court for a court action for 1 million or 2 million people or however many they've decided they're going to deport. You can't possibly do that, which the left knows, and so they're trying to stop all deportation.
But you know, too, you don't, like, due process is a loaded term. Like, they're trying to say, basically, every single person you deport has to come in for a full trial. That's not what the law guarantees at all.
No.
People are turned back all the time and removed from the country without any due process. But when you say without any due process, it's misleading. The due process is built into the law, which is you could just be removed. Right. And that's not in every circumstance. I don't believe it's in the circumstance of the guy that was sent to, what's his name, Kilmar.
Yeah, Abrego Garcia.
There was a due process he went through and was not supposed to be sent to that country, which is something that, by the way, the Trump administration has acknowledged multiple times. The issue here is, like, it wouldn't be that you'd be having millions of people going to individual trials over this, because that's not how the system operates. Like, the law, due process is the law. It's another word, essentially, of saying, like, you need to follow the law. And the law should be followed, but that the law does not require millions of individual trials for every single person who crosses the border.
It's silly. You couldn't possibly do that, because the number they acknowledge is 11 million. Are you going to have 11 million trials for these? And really more like 20 or 30 million, and not all are going to be deported, but there's going to be a big number of them, according to the administration, and there's no way you can do that. But when they're here illegally, they're going to face deportation.
And I will note,
that easy,
by the way, Pat, and I know you will agree with this, if they did do 20 million trials and they found 8 million people should be deported by those trials, what the media would do was say the trials were unfair. And they would say the law was horrible. They would say you were destroying the lives of the people who went through those trials, which, by the way, is essentially what they're doing with Garcia, which is, oh, well, he was deported to the wrong country. If he were to come back and then they were to send him to, name the third country, whatever one you want, Colombia, what they would say was unfair that he was sent to Colombia, and it was horrible and it was unconstitutional. It's so ridiculously predictable. You understand why I think a lot of the reaction from the Trump administration, even though they've acknowledged this was not the right way to handle this, is just like kind of shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do
you want us to do?
We can't take your criticism seriously. You just say whatever's in front of you that benefits you at the moment. Right? Like, whatever argument will work for them in that particular moment, they just blurt it out. Even if it makes no sense, even if they know it's nonsensical, they'll just say it anyway.